Well, good morning, good afternoon, good night, depending on when you're listening to this. This is the Prakash, and I wanted to hop on and do a quick little review of the Thanksgiving Day football games. Not soccer games, the football games, the NFL games. We had three, and I thought I would just hop on and give you guys my take on all three of the games. And of course, as always, you're listening to me on the YouTube channel, but if you want to hear us weekly, you can listen to the Proc and Friends Radio Hour on www.theblock105.com. We are on Thursdays at 8 p.m. So you can check us out there. And you can also check us out on our YouTube channel, which you are listening to me right now on. And you will search Procast. That's Prakcast, just one word. And of course, if you want to reach us, you can always reach us at procandfriends@gmail.com. So let's get into the football for a little bit. And this will be a little short. It'll be a short podcast. Um, Start things off in Detroit. We got a pretty good game actually in Detroit. It was Detroit and Buffalo, and Buffalo wins the game 28-25. So it was a lot closer as well. Buffalo won the game by a field goal, a last second field goal. And if I'm watching this game, Buffalo got the win. They're now 8-3. Detroit falls to 4-7. I think that the way I've been viewing Buffalo the past couple of weeks, and since they lost to the Jets, I think that there's something not right with Buffalo. Buffalo is not clicking on all cylinders when you're watching them. Yeah, they got the win, this week in against the Lions on Thanksgiving Day. They got the win last week against the Browns, but they just haven't been that team that's clicking on all cylinders. And you're like, well, what's the big deal? Well, it's a big deal. They get the win, yes, but if you're not clicking on all cylinders, I don't think they're going to go into Kansas City and beat the Chiefs later on. You look at Buffalo's division, the AFC East. The Jets are a good team. Jets are a good defensive football team. Offense, at Zach Wilson, leaves a little bit to be desired, but we'll discuss that on the radio show next week. Miami, Tua just throws it up. He has receivers. Miami's a good football team as well. We saw New England play pretty well against Minnesota, but we'll get to that game a little bit later on. I look at Buffalo, it's going to be very tough for them. And right now, Buffalo's not in first place. Buffalo's not in first place in the AFC. It's Miami. So I look at the Buffalo Bills and say, okay, yes, they're 8-3. They're most likely going to be a playoff team, but if they have to go in as a 5 seed, they'll have to deal with Tennessee and maybe Baltimore in the first round. And then in the second round, they may have to see Kansas City a lot earlier than they would have liked. And yeah, they went to Kansas City earlier and they beat them this year. But the Buffalo Bills, to me, right now, are not clicking on all cylinders. And it's, defensively, they were supposed to be a really good team. They're not that good at the defense has been shoddy a little bit. And I mean, the defense, they gave up 20 points to the Jets, and the Jets are, offensively challenged. This Jets don't have a good offense. They gave up 20 points. So I look at this Buffalo Bills team, and I think to myself that they're going through, maybe they're in a little bit of a slump. And I think that's the issue. They're going to get out of it. It's been like this ever since that Jet game, really. They lost to the Jets. Then they were at home. They had a 14-point lead against Minnesota in the first half of that game, and Minnesota came back and beats them there. And they won back-to-back games. They won in Cleveland. They beat Cleveland. They beat Detroit. They're just not clicking on all cylinders yet. And I hope there's plenty of football left. There's about 6 weeks left in the season, so Buffalo's going to hopefully get their act together. Probably get that 1 seed. Well, I don't know if they're going to get the 1 seed. It looks like Kansas City's got a firm grip on that one, but they do hold a tiebreaker. So if they tie with Kansas City, Buffalo is going to be the number 1 seed in the AFC. So something to shoot for them. They also have to contend with Miami, you know, a Tennessee team that we're not really talking about. So Buffalo needs to, you know, kind of get their act together a little bit. And you're probably saying, well, hey, they just won. What do you mean get their act together? Well, yeah, they need to get their act together a little bit, I think. Um, and one key piece of news looks like Von Miller will be out for some time. Looks like the report I saw today was that he has a sprained knee. Looks like it was a sprained knee, so no damage to his ACL, which is always good because once you hear ACL, it means you're done for the year. So if a sprained knee, hopefully, if he has to miss the regular season, Buffalo will get him back for the playoff run, and they're going to need him. They're going to need him in the worst way. So, Buffalo got some good. I mean, very funny. They got some good news on Josh Allen with his elbow injury. Now they're getting some good news with Von Miller on his knee injury. Just a sprained knee, it looks like. But yeah, they need to start being more clinical in their wins. If they are a Super Bowl favorite, but they haven't just been clinical in these games, and that's the problem. They're not putting. I mean, they should have put Minnesota away. They were up 2 touchdowns in the first half to Minnesota. Didn't put them away. Couldn't put the Jets away. Well, even Cleveland made a little bit of a comeback against them, and this game it almost went to overtime. It was tied at 25 late in the fourth quarter, late with like less than a minute left. So Buffalo just to me hasn't been clinical at all, but hopefully they right that ship. And as for the Lions, the Lions were kind of on the periphery of the NFC playoff picture. They're going to be a hell of a team next season. They're going to, many people may look at them and say, hey, they're winning that division next year. They've got key pieces. They've got 2 solid running backs in Swift and Williams. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a stud wide receiver. So just looking at this team moving forward, they're going to be a good team. And they're putting teams, they're going to be the spoiler. They're going to be a spoiler at the end of this year because they're a good football team with the way they play. And they're learning how to win games. So I look at them, they're 4-7 right now. If they can go 8-9, 9-8, I know that would be like, well, they only lose 1 or 2 more games the rest of the way, but they're gonna give a lot of teams fits. Don't think the Lions are gonna come in and be the team that you're just gonna be easily beat because you're not. The Lions are gonna give you a fight. So that was my takeaway from the Bills. To sum it up from the Bills Lions game, but to sum it up, I think Buffalo they're winning, but it's not a clinical win the way they should be winning. It's coming down to like last minute stuff, and the other teams making comebacks on them. So Buffalo's got to clean that up a little bit. And then you've got the Detroit Lions, who are on the outside looking into the NFC. I don't think they get in because they're going to have to deal with teams like the Seahawks and the Giants. I mean, they did beat the Giants. Also, a team like Washington, who's making a little bit of a run right now. Atlanta, this is a big weekend for Atlanta. I think if Atlanta loses this game against Tampa Bay, against who did they play? I believe it's Chicago. They play. No, not Chicago. Atlanta's play Washington. Excuse me. Atlanta plays Washington. So it's a big game for both of those teams. The winner stays alive in the NFC playoff race. The loser probably has to win the division, and that's more of a shot for Atlanta. Atlanta has a better shot at winning their division than I think being a wild card and being like the 4th seed. So so that's my take. I think Detroit's going to be a big team next year. Look out for them next season. But I think right now they're just going to be one of those feisty little teams. Now, to move on from this game, we'll go to the middle game, which was Cowboys Giants. And for one half, the Giants looked pretty good. First half, they were leading at halftime by 6 points. They had a 13-7 lead. Looking at this game, I mean, the Giants just have no offensive weapons. They have Saquon Barkley, and that's it. But then when you look at on the other side, you look at Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys have CeeDee Lamb. They've got Michael Gallup. They've got Pollard and Zeke Elliott at running back. Dak Prescott is a big time quarterback. Schultz at tight end. So the Cowboys have weapons at every one of the key offensive positions, and they're a pretty darn good defensive team. Micah Parsons, one of the best defensive linemen in all of football. I just look at, there was no way the Giants, and give the Giants credit. They kept it close in the first half, and then Dallas just exploded in the second half. But, if one team needed a weapon so badly, it's the Giants. And that weapon is Odell Beckham Jr. OBJ, if you're listening, the Giants need you more. You look at Dallas. No, if OBJ comes out and says, I want to do kind of what I did last season and just join a team that's closer to the Super Bowl, then he's going to Dallas. If you remember last year, he didn't have to go into a team and become the number one receiver. That job was already taken in Los Angeles last year by Cooper Kupp. He was just going to be a complementary piece to the Los Angeles Rams. If he does that with Dallas this year again, you're looking at their wide receiver room that already has CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup. Now you're going to throw OBJ in there? I mean, that's going to be ridiculous. Dallas's offense is going to be just ridiculous with OBJ. And if OBJ wants to come back to that role, where he is, not the main guy, but he wants to be a piece of a team that can go further, then he's going to Dallas. Then he's signed with Dallas. But if he wants to be the man, the number one receiver, you got to come to the Giants. And he'll be the number one receiver on their team the second he steps on that field. He steps on a practice field. Because you look at the rest of this Dallas team, they're stacked. You look at the Giants aren't stacked at all. Outside of Saquon Barkley, the Giants have nothing else on offense. Danny Jones is not Dak Prescott. It's been nice and fun for us Giant fans watching this team. We were hoping, praying at the beginning of the year that they would win 8-9 games. Now they're 7-4. Tough schedule ahead. I think they will get in to the playoffs with like 10 wins. But I think they need OBJ. They need him. But it's OBJ's decision. If he wants to be the guy who is going to be the man, then he's going to be a New York Giant. If he wants to be a piece on a team that can win right now, he's going to Dallas. And who knows where else he could end up. There's always teams. I think he's going to start visiting teams soon. And as for the game, you saw the Giant lack of firepower in the game. It seemed like CeeDee Lamb had a big game. Zeke and Pollard are running all over the Giants, and then it just got to a point where, the game wasn't as close as the score. Cowboys winning 28-20, and that's because Dallas had a lot of false starts. So Dallas has to clean things up a little bit as well. They were up against a team that's just battered and bruised, and I hope the Giants use these next 10 days off that they're going to get until they have to play another game. I believe their next game is against Washington. The Giants have to, get healthier and try to get, some more effectiveness out of their offense. Because once teams stop stopping Saquon Barkley, and Saquon only rushed for 42 yards. So once, teams realize, hey, if we stop Barkley, the Giants can't do anything else, the Giants aren't winning any games. And that's the key, because they have nothing else on offense. So, the key takeaways from this game, Dallas needs to clean up on those penalties. I think they had like 11 false starts. It's 10 or like 11 false start penalties. Like, you're at home. How do you have that many false starts? If that was the Giants, that I could understand. Well, they're on the road. It's a loud environment. Yeah, but the Giants, man, oh man, the Giants need OBJ. The Giants need you. But it's your decision, man. It's the role you want to take on. And like I said, the score was not indicative of the game. 28-20, but this game wasn't that close. And of course, the Giants did have a touchdown that was taken away from them. The lineman was called saying that the lineman was down the field, but he was like 1 yard down the field. Like it was I don't know, but yeah, the Giants need to get some more offense, and they need to figure out a way, to take defenses away from Saquon. Saquon is the only offensive piece they have right now. You get him in there, all of a sudden now you get OBJ on this team, and it's a lot different because defenses are going to have to start honoring OBJ, and they can't just stack the box to stop Saquon Barkley. They're going to have to put, instead of stacking the box with eight guys, the defensive line and the linebackers, instead of putting 8 guys there, they're going to have to drop some guys back into coverage to help stop Odell Beckham Jr., and that's going to make the Giant offense become more dynamic. But right now, they're just a one-trick pony with Saquon, and they need Odell. So, Giants, you got to put a full court press on Odell Beckham Jr. because you need him in the worst way. And it showed yesterday. I mean, if you were watching that game, you just saw Dallas had all the offensive weapons. The Giants had nothing. Nothing. So, moving on, and the third and final game we got last night was the New England Patriots visiting the Minnesota Vikings. This was a pretty good offensive shootout. It definitely was a shootout. And Justin Jefferson had another big game. And Minnesota did a good job, behind their at putting behind their their shellacking, their stomping at the hands of the Dallas Cowboys. The 40-3, last week Sunday. They came out here and they had to get this win. They absolutely had to win this game because there was no way they're on national TV in prime time. We all know the knock on Kirk Cousins is that he can't win a game in prime time. Well, he had a prime time game last night, and this was the prime time game because it was the 8 o'clock game. It was the third of 3 games we got yesterday. And we know, Kirk always struggles in prime time. Well, he did a good job. Did a pretty darn good job last night at winning this game. And Mac Jones had a very good game. The Patriot quarterback had an excellent game. It just, to me, with the Patriots, they're going to win games with defense and a good offensive showing. They're going to win games. They can't, I think, go toe to toe. And they did do a good job going toe to toe with the Minnesota Vikings. But I think if they have to go toe to toe with Buffalo or Kansas City, I don't think they can do it. This has to be, their defense has to give them a good effort, and they have to be able to, put up some points. And which they got last night. Just Minnesota's offense was a lot more dynamic, and they were able to kind of solve the Bill Belichick defense. And you saw some mistakes, like the roughing the punter penalty on that New England had, that New England got, I should say. Well, they didn't get it. They gave it to Minnesota, roughing the punter. That's something that Bill Belichick teams don't. Bill Belichick teams don't make mistakes, and I think that's the only way this team is going to win if they don't make mistakes. And they got the good offensive showing. They just got no effort whatsoever from their defense. And Justin Jefferson went crazy again. I mean, what can you say? You can make the argument he's the best receiver in football. I know Stephon Diggs is in that conversation. CeeDee Lamb may be there. So a lot of you can make that idea that Justin Jefferson is pretty darn good there. And of course, Minnesota goes on to win. They're firmly in first place in their division. New England's going to be in a dogfight to get those AFC, to get a wild card in the AFC along with Jets. And the division is not that. It's not that weak. It's not weak at all. They're going to have to go through Miami. They're going to have to go through Buffalo. They've already beaten the Jets twice. But not only is that division very strong, but the conference for the most part, they're going to be dealing with teams like, the Jets, who they've beaten twice, Buffalo. We could see a scenario where all 3 wildcard teams come out of the AFC East. You're going to look at the West, the AFC West, and say, well, oh, that division, it's Kansas City and nobody else. Maybe they're going to be dealing with the Chargers in Los Angeles. In the North, you're going to have to deal with Cincinnati, Baltimore. In the AFC South, it's Tennessee, and the Colts are kind of making it a little bit interesting in that division. But Tennessee is very quietly sneaking away. But once again, Kirk Cousins, we need to see more of this from you. You need when the lights are shining the brightest on you, Kirk Cousins, you need to go out there and shine brighter than those lights. You did a pretty good job last night, but at that Dallas game, you can't lose games 40-3 like that, especially at home. Especially a team that might. I mean, you have a firm grip. You're pretty much. You're either going to be the 1 or the 2 seed in the NFC. So you're still going to have to play in that first round and that wild card round. You're not going to get a bye if you get that 2 seed. But it all depends on Philly right now because Philly only has the 1 loss. But you need to do more of what you did last night for the rest of the season, prime time or not. You have to be the man. And you've got the weapons. Dalvin Cook, Thielen, Justin Jefferson, T.J. Hawkinson. So you've got the weapons. You've got the weapons, Kirk Cousins. Now you just got to put them to use. And as for the Patriots, you're going to be in a dogfight with the rest of the AFC for the wild card. You're not winning that division. You're not overtaking Miami. You're not overtaking Buffalo. But you're definitely in contention for a wild card spot in the playoff game somewhere. So, those are my takeaways from the Thanksgiving Day games of the year of 2022. And it's very, very, it's getting that crunch time. It's getting crunch time. There's 6 weeks left in the season. 6 weeks left. Teams got to start making their moves now. You got to start separating yourselves a little bit. You don't want it to come down to that last week where you need to win or you need to lose. You kind of want to take a little break because only one team gets a bye, and that's right now the only teams that get a bye are Kansas City and Philadelphia. So these are just my wanted to spend a few moments to just give my thoughts on the Thanksgiving Day games for this for Week 12 this season, and just wanted to give you. Of course, you guys can you'll hear the other guys give their thoughts on the games Thursday at 8 p.m. at www.theblock105.com. Listening to the Proc and Friends Radio Hour. This was just a little podcast that I wanted to do to kind of give my opinions on what I saw yesterday during the football game. So I hope you all had a lovely Thanksgiving, a very feastful Thanksgiving. And I hope you guys, didn't spend too much money on Black Friday today. Nonetheless, I hope you are you're going to have a great Christmas season. We'll be on, of course. You can catch us on the radio, and we'll do some spot podcasts like this one is. So, still plenty of time. So, just wanted to sign off for you guys now. Have a good night, good morning, good afternoon, whenever you're listening to me. This is the Procast, and I will catch you on the next one. Goodbye.